So we're going to go over several different topics here. We've got theme. We've got meter. We've got rhyme. And then we've got format or syntax. And this is lyrical poetry. And lyric poetry is our simplest of poetry styles. Why? Because usually it's an AABB rhyme, or maybe it's an ABAB CD rhyme, but it's like music, right? The end rhyme is the most important part because it keeps the rhythm of what's being said together. Also, lyrical poetry is usually about what? Think about it. What kind of music, like pop music, what's it usually about? Huh? Love. And so lyric poetry is a lot of times about love or those kind of subsequent emotions, right? Hate. Okay, so on. So we look at things like the theme. The theme is the main idea of the poem. So in Christina Rossetti's A Dirge, if you know English somewhat well, you know that a dirge is a song to the dead. So we're going to go ahead and go over this together. Why were you born when the snow was falling? You should have come to the cuckoo's calling. Or when grapes were green in the cluster, or at least when the little swallows muster, for they're far, far off flying from summer dying. Why did you die when the lambs were cropping? You should have died at the apples dropping, when the grasshopper comes to trouble, and when the wheat fields are sodden stubble, and all winds go sighing for sweet things dying. So in this case, you've got was a paradox. And what is the paradox here? It's the paradox of death and life. And how so? Well, the author says, she asks the question on both sides here, why were you born when the snow is falling? What's paradoxical about being born when snow falls? When we think about birth and growth and rejuvenation, what season do we identify with? What? Spring. Very good. And so what's the paradox for this? What's the paradox here? The person was born in the winter. And so the winter is a time of life? No, it's a time of death. All the trees are gone. They don't have any leaves. All the animals are scurrying around. They're trying to find nutrition. They're trying to find food. Okay? And so to contrast this, she says, you should have come in the cuckoo's calling, which is around April, May in England, when grapes are green in the cluster. When are grapes green in the cluster? Okay, that's irrelevant. When do grapes grow? Give me a season. Summer. Or at least when live swallows muster, for they're far off flying. So they migrate in late summer from summer dying. So they migrate around August, September, right? So she says you should have been born from April until September when life is happening, right? Because that's a time of birth, thereby giving a paradox. Okay? You were born during death and you died during birth. And so the second half is, why did you die when the lambs are cropping? So when do the lambs crop? That's at the very end of the season when everything, when the lambs were cropping, that's during spring. So he died, or whoever it is, died during spring when the lambs were cropping. She says, you should have died at the apples dropping. When do apples drop? Okay, late fall, early winter. when the grasshopper comes to trouble, when does a grasshopper come to trouble?
At night.
Okay, no. Have any of you heard the Aesop's fable of the grasshopper and the ant? Okay, I need you to listen very carefully now because they should have taught you this in first grade. So there's a story that Aesop gives of the grasshopper and the ant. And the grasshopper is a very frivolous character. He runs around and he's like, yoo, yeah, yeah. He jumps, and he eats whatever. And he encounters a group of ants. And he says to the ants, brother, why do you toil? Why do you work so hard? And the ant says to him, because we are packing away food for winter. And the grasshopper says, dude, why are you even worrying? You don't have to worry about it. Just come on, let's have some fun. Let's go drink, have some parties, whatever. And the ant says, no, I have to work and prepare for. Exactly. And so what happens eventually? The leaves start to fall. The grass starts to wither. And the grasshopper discovers that winter is coming and there is no food left. Okay, and that's where they say the grasshopper comes to trouble. And the wheat fields are sodden stubble. Can you see that? You can see that now with the cornfields out there. They've been shorn, and now we're coming into fall, and there's no more growth anymore. And all winds go sighing, for sweet things die. Okay, so this is all a theme of paradoxes. Whoever this person was born in the winter and died in the summer. So there's this huge paradox. And they think it refers to Cressida Rossetti's brother's wife, who she had a miscarriage, and she drank laudanum, which was an old cough syrup that was made of heroin, cocaine, morphine, stuff like that. If you've seen Red Dead, played Red Dead Redemption 1, they had like a little movie house where they talked about it. But it was a very potent drug. You're only supposed to take a little of it, and all you have to do is just drink a bunch of it. Guess what? You're dead. You overdose. So they think that maybe that's who she's referring to, is his brother Dante's dead wife. Okay, so looking at this, it comes with a meter. Do you know what a meter is? It's not something you park next to. Like what? Oh, that's beautiful. Yes, exactly. So the meter is the amount of syllables per line. Now notice with her, she varies them. With your assignment today, they're all in the most commonly used meter, which is what? It's iambic tetrameter, or 8 beats of da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay. Also, if you remember Romeo and Juliet from last year, that was all spoken in iambic pentameter, because Shakespeare, his characters, all of his royal characters, spoke in elevated verse. They all spoke da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like that.
I remember Miss Sullivan pointed that out.
Very good. So, why were you born when the snow was falling? 10. You should have come to the cuckoo's calling. 10. Notice how it gets shorter. Or when grapes are green in the cluster, or at least when the lithe swallows muster, for their far-off flying from summer dying. Now, why does it shorten like this? Notice you start with the winter, and just like the time that we have in the summer, where the sun goes long, the time shortens. Okay? And then we're in winter, with the time being short, the time in the poem is short, right? It goes from long, like the summer, to the short. Hopefully at least one of you will appreciate that. So that's what we're looking at with meter. You've got about 10 syllables, about 8, and then about 6 here. Okay? So, for their far off flying, 6. From summer dying, 5. Okay? Then also we've got rhyme. So what's the rhyme scheme in this poem?
Is it rhyme scheme like A, A, B, B?
It depends on what the last lines are. So, falling, calling, A. Cluster, muster, B. Flying, dying, C. C. Cropping, dropping, that's new. D. D. Trouble, stubble, that's new. E. E. Sighing, dying.
Wouldn't it be CC?
It would be CC because she's gone back to the original. And again, what does this do? Well, you know, people who are stupid enough like me that have got English degrees, we look at this and we go, look at this, it's cyclical, just like the year, just like the sun, just like time, it goes in a circle. It goes from CC to CC, back again. Okay? And so by doing this, we've got a lot of different things going on, a lot more than a normal high schooler would look at and go, oh, this is just a poem. Then finally, the format, how many stanzas are there? There are 2 stanzas. And these are called, they have 6 lines, they're called they're not an octet, which is 8 lines, they're a sestet, which means 6 lines. Okay? And this is how a normal high school